Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Star Wars Rebels episode review. This one's going to be for Season 3, Episode 5, Hera's Heroes. Overall, this was a pretty good episode. I wouldn't rate it any higher than that, but there were definitely some really good moments to this episode. The reason I don't rate it super highly is because I think the main plot that the episode was going for, in terms of like a kind of character development reveal type thing, was actually kind of the weakest part of the episode. That being, you're having Hera go back to, her home basically, which has been taken over by the Empire. She's trying to get this family heirloom, the Kalikori, back, and it's meant to kind of really bring back all these memories. It's meant to be this kind of look into the kind of past of Hera, how she feels about it now. Her father's in the episode. You see a moment with Chopper, and it's fine. It's okay, but why haven't we seen a flashback of young Hera? Why haven't we explored these moments? Especially when you had that scene where Thrawn was interrogating her, and he talks really in depth about how you were forged by war, and that's kind of all it's about now for her. I think you should have shown the moment when that happened, her finding Chopper, further establish that moment, because that was just left completely to the side, just that one 5-second scene, oh, Chopper hasn't responded to our orders because that's the Y-Wing I took him out of and he still has issues with it. Can we not explore that? Even though it's a droid character, can we, in any way go into that a bit? But no, Chopper just appears a little later on in the episode and is perfectly fine, basically. So, it's stuff like that. The criticism show don't tell comes up again here. And for me, when I see this a lot of the time, it ends up feeling a little bit like the person using it isn't using it correctly. In that, for me, show don't tell refers to moments like this, where they have the whole basis of this kind of plot that they've set up here is that it's meant to be this big emotional moment. This is their family home. You have references to the mother. You have references to Chopper. You're kind of referencing and telling us about these moments from the past, and you're trying to make us feel and care about them because they've told us about them. But those moments would be so much better if you showed them. Showed us how Hera was kind of forged by wars. Show us how her attitude changed once the Clone Wars came to her hometown. How her relationship with her father kind of fell apart a little bit. How she always had a great relationship with her mother. And how the death of her mother really affected her. Those are the types of things that I want to see from this episode. Not the way this did it. Where it just kind of told us about them. But again, I still don't think this is a episode where I would criticize for show don't tell. I just think they should show don't tell. The problems I have with that criticism at times is that people just say it because anything is exposition. Exposition is fine when you use it. It's only a problem when every line of dialogue out of every character's mouth is exposition, which wasn't the case here. It's just this episode would have been so much more impactful if they had shown us some of the flashback stuff. And I still don't get why the show refuses to do that. Why in the last episode you probably could have used some Sabine flashback to kind of highlight her remembering stuff from her days of training and why she left. That should have been shown. Little things like that as time goes on. We should get flashbacks. Because they're referring kind of so heavily to the past, we should get moments where we actually see those moments from the past. So that was a kind of weakness of the episode, I felt, because while it was cool to see Hera go back and forth between the kind of Twi'lek accent, the kind of French-style accent, and her normal accent, and kind of act like she's a slave, basically, to the Empire. And there were some great scenes with her and Thrawn. I just felt the overall core of the episode with regards to highlighting Hera's past was probably the weakest aspect of the episode, whereas the strongest aspect of the episode was Thrawn. I thought the episode was kind of boring up until he entered the scene, and suddenly he took over the episode and was the absolute star of the episode by a long shot. And what I liked about him so much is that he's very different than all of the other kind of Imperial officers, basically. He's much more cold, calculating, but what I like is that he kind of lets them talk. You had the huge contrast between Cham's enemy, the other guy in charge, I can't remember what his name was, the other Imperial officer, and Thrawn. Whereas Hera, when she eventually kind of snapped out of the acting like a kind of slave situation and started talking, he was immediately like, stop her talking, punish her for talking out of turn to us, we're the Empire, we can't let this happen. Whereas Thrawn was kind of like, no, let her talk. Because we haven't really got the full reveal just yet, but you can tell that he wants her to talk more, because the more she talks, the more he learns about her, and the more he can use that against her in the future to gain an insight into how she thinks and the way things will happen. It's why moments like when he just lets them leave at the end. They could follow them and maybe damage their ship and stuff like that, but he's like, no, stop. Let them have their victory today, because we will learn from what's happened here. And it's almost this idea that he's letting them have the confidence of thinking that they got away scot-free. That there was no negative to them getting away in this case. Whereas he's kind of like, no, we'll let them get away and think that they're really confident. But then the moment when I actually do decide to pursue them and not let them escape, they won't get away. And I really like the setup for this character, that he's really thinking things through. He is looking at the stuff around him. I did like the whole idea of the whole Calicori, and how for everyone else basically in the episode, that was just a random thing, just this ornament in that room. But he was aware that, no, this is important. This is an important thing for a Twi'lek family that represents the basically a family's growth, and it's always passed on and kind of added onto. And the fact that he also looked at the kind of interesting kind of mural painting thing in the back, and could very clearly see that this little girl is her, and was aware that, oh, you're coming back for this because of your kind of family ties. And him figuring that out versus the other Imperial officer who was perfectly fine accepting that she was just a slave there, whereas she looks quite similar to the girl in the photo. Little things like that show that he is thinking all the time, coming up with plans, and is putting together these kind of files on these characters. He knows who they are, what they're interested in, and because of that, he's going to be able to soon, I assume, predict what they're going to do, and we're going to see him have some huge victories, and the rebels not get away completely free at the end of every engagement. And I like that setup. The only other criticism I have for this episode is that the actual battles that we saw in this episode were very basic. It was just distraction, let's just attack the Empire and run off and stuff like that. There was no real threat, I don't think, to much of the action here. That okay, one of the animals goes down, you think Hera and Kanan are going to get left behind, but they very quickly regroup and get back on. It's fine, but it just kind of felt like action for the sake of action. There were other nice moments. I really liked the scene where we had the scout bike trooper left on his own pursue the ghost as everyone was loaded up onto it. And what they decide to do is have the scout bike trooper come on and basically board the ship as well, thinking he's some amazing commando and he's going to take out everyone on board. He's like, yes, I'm on board, I'm going to do everything, and he's just immediately met with everyone pointing a weapon at him. They capture him, and I love the joke about Zeb saying to Ezra, do you have this one? And he's like, nope. And Zeb just knocks him out, and then Ezra has that Imperial uniform for the episode, which he does put on as a kind of plot point of the episode. That was a fun little thing that they kind of uses as a kind of plot device, but it was also one of the most funniest moments that we've had with an Imperial so far with the scout bike. So I thought that was really well done. The other moment, I suppose, would be Cham willing to sacrifice himself for Hera. That was nice. We had the episode last season where they kind of came back together properly as father and daughter. And just the fact that he's the leader and he's so well respected, but he's willing to sacrifice himself for Hera and basically give the leadership over to her if needs be. That's how much faith he has in her now. And I like the little joke between them where like it kind of goes back to the father-daughter thing where he's just like, I'm sorry about the house, I kind of wrecked it. And he's like, what? And then it blows up and he's like, I didn't think you actually meant that. I thought that was a fun, kind of funny father-daughter moment, even though Hera's kind of fully grown at this point. So there were little moments where like I got behind the Cham-Hera relationship, but not a massive amount. But other than that, the episode, I think, as I said, Thrawn, far and away a highlight of the episode. Can't wait to see him make his next appearance. There were other nice moments. As I said, little bits and pieces. I in general liked them trying to develop Hera as a character, but I think unless they show some flashback, I can't fully just get behind everything that they're going for here, just because I don't have the context for why I should feel that way. Versus, I think if we did get some flashback, we'd know. As I said, especially that Chopper scene. That was just kind of left out there, like, okay, Chopper has some issues with the way he was found, and maybe the pilot of the Y-Wing that he was in, and the relationship he had with that person. Can we see some of that to develop him as a character so we know him better? But no. So hopefully they decide to do some flashback at some point, because I think it's much needed. Again, Sabine and Hera I still think are the most underdeveloped ones. And especially with them kind of more and more kind of mentioning that Sabine is a Mandalorian and stuff like that. Are you ever going to show any of this? She's talking about forging armor last season and stuff like that, but we need to see more. Next episode seems like it's pretty interesting. It's called The Last Battle. Rex is going to be a focus of the episode. We're getting a lot of Clone Wars references in the next one. I'm interested to see how that actually goes down in regards to what the plot of the episode is, outside of just reflecting on the past. That could be very, very interesting. But yeah, this was, I think, an episode where it wasn't quite the kind of skippable episodes like some of the season 1 and 2 Rebels episodes, where it's just a completely random Rebels mission that oh, let's get this intel, let's get this ship. This one had some character behind it, and they did some interesting stuff with it. I hope they do episodes more like this going forward, rather than the season 1-2 kind of formula that they had. So that's basically all I wanted to say. So yeah, that's been the episode review for Hera's Heroes. Links in the description to my Twitter and Tumblr if you want to follow me on social media. If you want to support my channel, links to my Patreon page and also my PayPal donation link are there in the description as well. But that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.